Imagine finding the perfect house in Utah and then discovering it's a ticking time bomb. If you're thinking about buying anywhere along the Wasatch Front, this video could save you a fortune. Utah isn't like other markets. Our mountains, soil, and seismic faults create hidden risks. Our housing shortage pushes prices high, and some property types simply do not hold their value. As a local real estate agent here in Salt Lake City, I want to equip you with the knowledge to spot a bad deal before it becomes your nightmare. So stick around to the end because I'm going to break down the 6 categories of homes you should avoid in Utah. And number 6 on this list is something that is often overlooked. Hey, my name is Scott Willie, and my team and I help dozens of families a year relocate to and within Utah. Over the years, we've walked through hundreds of inspections. We've seen deals fall apart because of unknown issues and watched buyers in our market lose money on the wrong property. So the goal of this video is to make sure that you don't make those same mistakes. I'm gonna draw on both experience and data from local engineers, state reports, and housing market studies so you know exactly what to watch out for. Now let's dive into the first type of home in Utah to avoid. This is gonna be a bit controversial, but number 1 on this list are homes with financed solar panels. All right, let's talk about solar panels. It sounds environmentally friendly, maybe even like a savvy investment, but there's a catch. The way most solar systems are financed can leave you on the hook for decades. Here's what many Utah homeowners don't realize. When you finance solar panels, you're not just taking out a personal loan. In many cases, the lender files what's called a UCC1 lien against your property. This basically means the solar company or its financing partner has a legal claim on your home until those panels are fully paid off. So it's going to show up on your title report, and it doesn't just disappear when you sell unless you clear the debt. That's where sellers get blindsided. They assume that solar panels can transfer to the new owner like a fridge or washer and dryer, but that's often not the case. Most buyers don't want to take on a loan that they didn't sign up for, and many lenders flat out won't allow the buyer to assume the loan. Even if the contract allows for a loan assumption, the buyer has to meet credit requirements, and if the buyer doesn't qualify, you're left with really 2 options. You can pay off the remaining balance at closing, or you can watch the deal fall apart. That solar lien eats into your equity if you decide to sell your house in the future. Here's another issue, is the overall payback timeline. Industry loans typically range from around 8 to 25 years. So even if you make extra payments and pay it off in 7 to 9 years, you're committing to a long-term debt. And the promised savings on your power bill often take just as long to materialize. I mean, think about your own plans. If you might move in 5 or 10 years, you might not ever reach your break-even point on the loan when you actually start saving money on your electric bill. There's also the aesthetics. In many subdivisions, especially higher end ones, the curb appeal is a big deal. Real estate professionals point out those solar panels on the front of a house, which can be a turnoff to buyers and often ideally should be hidden on the back side of the roof. So if your roof doesn't face the right way, you might have to choose between optimal energy production and an exterior that appeals to future buyers. And in some HOAs, there are actually restrictions on where you can place panels or whether you can install them at all. And finally, beware of the sales pitch. Some solar companies gloss over these details. They focus on free energy and tax credits, but what they don't mention is that a UCC1 filing makes your panels a secure debt. So they might not tell you that loan assumptions are rare, or that if you try to refinance your mortgage, a lender could ask you to clear that solar lien first. Here's the bottom line. Solar can be a smart choice if you plan to stay for decades and you understand the financing. But if you're buying or selling soon, or you just don't want a lien draining your equity, a financed solar system is a type of home upgrade you might want to avoid altogether. Number 2 are homes on hillsides or in geological hazard zones. Mountain living can be majestic, but potentially dangerous. Utah's dramatic slopes and canyon mouths are prone to avalanches and landslides. So if you build or buy on a steep hillside, you're potentially exposing yourself to hazards that can't be mitigated by simple fixes. The classic example of this was back in 2023. A landslide in Draper forced 2 newly built homes to collapse into a ravine, even though the development had passed initial inspections. The ground underneath simply gave way. And landslides aren't the only concern. In winter, snow can build up on steep slopes above homes and release as an avalanche, potentially wiping out everything in its path. And in an earthquake, hillsides composed of loose materials can liquefy, behaving kind of like quicksand. And then you have to think about wildfires. I mean, wildfires are another danger on hillside areas, and the closer that you live to the Wasatch Mountains, the more relevant this becomes. Grasses and brush dry out quickly in Utah's hot summers, and when flames move up a slope, they actually preheat the vegetation above them, causing fires to spread even faster. Some hillside neighborhoods across the Wasatch Front only have one road in and out of the neighborhood, and if a fire is moving quickly, residents may have limited time to evacuate. City planners are aware of these hazards, and many local ordinances restrict building on slopes above a certain gradient and actually require mitigation such as retaining walls or debris basins. However, these measures don't completely eliminate the underlying risk. State geologists have said that slides in hillside developments are inevitable, not hypothetical. Here's another issue. Insurance may be difficult or expensive to obtain. And if a landslide damages your home, you're often left fighting with the builder and the city about who is responsible. So if you're tempted to buy a home with breathtaking views from a hillside, consider these steps. I would check Utah's geological hazard maps. The Utah Geological Survey's website allows you to actually see hazard layers for landslide susceptibility, as well as fault lines. I would research the slope your home sits on. Anything steeper than about 30%, which is around 17 degrees, is considered high risk and may be restricted from further development. You could also hire a geotechnical engineer if you're serious about a hillside property. They can assess soil composition, drainage patterns, and the potential for movement. You could even talk to neighbors and local officials. Have there been previous landslides or rockfall incidences in that area? Are there avalanche mitigation measures like snow fences or berms? Definitely read the fine print on your insurance. Many policies exclude damages from earth movement, so you may need special coverage. Think about emergency access. Is there more than one road in and out? How quickly can you evacuate if an avalanche or fire starts? A view is definitely nice, but peace of mind is even better. Unless you're prepared to accept the risk and potential cost, hillside homes might be better to avoid. Number 3 on this list of the types of homes that you should avoid buying in Utah are manufactured or mobile homes. Manufactured and mobile homes can seem appealing because of their lower price point. And this is especially true in a more expensive market like Salt Lake City. But in Utah, there are several reasons why they're not a good long-term investment. First, when a manufactured home sits in a mobile home park, you don't actually own the land. Under Utah property law, the home itself is considered personal property, not real estate. It would be the equivalent of like buying a car, not real property. That means you own the structure, but not the dirt underneath. And you'll pay rent to the park's owner, who can raise prices whenever they want. Because a manufactured home is considered personal property, these homes depreciate like a car, losing value over time. Unlike traditional real estate like single-family homes, townhomes, even condos, or raw land, which appreciate in value over time. Mobile homes, unfortunately, rarely increase in value. And eventually, when you sell, you may get less than what you actually bought it for. Financing is another hurdle, and to be quite frank, it can be a nightmare. Loans for manufactured homes often come with higher interest rates and shorter loan lengths. In fact, I'm only aware of like 2 lenders in the entire state of Utah who will loan on these types of properties. In fact, many people are forced to either buy the home in cash or from a private lender at worse terms than a bank would typically provide. There's also a risk that the park itself could be sold for redevelopment. In recent years, there's actually been several mobile home parks across the country who have been purchased by developers and then closed the park and required residents to basically sell their homes. Moving a manufactured home can cost thousands, and some older homes can't be moved at all. Even if you place a manufactured home on your own land, there are some pretty difficult challenges to pull off. some neighborhood zoning laws restrict manufactured homes or require a larger size lot. Resale buyers may be less interested in a property with a manufactured home, limiting your potential buyer pool. Then there's the construction quality. Many manufactured homes are built to minimal code standards and may not stand up to Utah's snow loads or harsh winters. Over time, you can have sagging roofs, soft floors, and plumbing issues can crop up. These are issues I see all the time. Even on private land, a manufactured home typically appreciates more slowly than site-built homes because the structure is still depreciating over time. Oh yeah, and let's not forget the challenges of getting utilities connected and the cost of permits from the city. So if your budget is tight, consider townhomes or condos instead. You'll own real property and benefit from appreciation as the market grows over time. Manufactured homes can be a temporary solution, but I suggest avoiding it at all costs. All right, number 4 on the list, and this might sound obvious, but overpriced homes in an expensive market. Utah's housing market is expensive, there's no question about that. In the fourth quarter of 2024, the median sales price of single-family homes across the entire state of Utah was around $550,000. Putting Utah among the top 10 most expensive states in the country. Prices have leveled off since the pandemic frenzy, but they haven't necessarily come down significantly. You have higher interest rates compounding the problem, making monthly payments even less affordable. And housing economists measure affordability with something called the median multiple ratio, which compares the median home price to the median household income. In Utah, this ratio was 5.1 in 2024. Anything above a 5 is considered severely unaffordable. So to put that in perspective, just 10 years earlier, Utah's median multiple was 3.5. Still high, but much more manageable. The bottom line is that Utah homes cost more relative to income than they have ever before. So what does that mean for you as a buyer? Well, it means you need to be disciplined about not overpaying for a property. Avoid getting swept away into bidding wars or paying above market value just because you might be afraid of missing out. And this is why it's critical to work with a local real estate expert who can guide you in navigating the Utah market. My team and I help our clients identify the right homes at the right budget and are oftentimes able to negotiate much better terms for our buyers. Now, Utah's market also varies by county, right? I mean, Salt Lake County tends to command the highest prices because of its job market and amenities. Utah County is the second most expensive county in the state, driven by the Silicon Slopes. But then you also have places in Washington County, down in St. George, near southern Utah, that have seen explosive growth from retirees and remote workers. Weber and Davis counties may offer more affordable options, but they're still going to be more expensive than most areas of the country. So knowing these regional differences can help you target areas where your dollar goes further. Here's a couple strategies to avoid overpaying for a property. First, you want to look at recent sold prices in the neighborhood, not just the seller's asking price, right? This is where a good real estate agent can assist with market data. It's also important to calculate your own affordability. You want to use a conservative interest rate and be realistic about your amount of down payment. You want to make sure that you can afford the payment at the current rates, not just if rates drop in the future. So I recommend setting a maximum monthly budget and then stick to it. Decide your top price based on those factors and don't necessarily let emotions push you higher. You want to pay attention to days on market. Homes that sit for longer may be overpriced or have hidden issues, and that could cost you thousands of dollars in repairs in the future. You want to work with an experienced local agent who can tell you which neighborhoods may be slightly undervalued and which ones might be overpriced. They can also help you find off-market or coming soon listings. In fact, 15% of my team's listings actually sell off-market. That's before it hits websites like Zillow. And remember, your goal is to buy a home that builds wealth, not one that just traps you with a payment you can barely manage. If something feels overpriced, trust your instincts and walk away. All right, if you're finding these insights helpful, hit that subscribe button. I post videos like this every week about living in Utah, housing trends, and tips for navigating this crazy market. And if you're thinking about buying or selling a house, feel free to reach out. I love to help you find a property that makes sense for your budget. Number 5 on this list is homes near neighborhoods with higher crime rates, below average school district ratings, or fewer amenities. Now that's kind of a long title, but one of the most overlooked factors in home appreciation is the neighborhood itself. It's kind of like when you get married. You're not just marrying your spouse, you're also marrying into your spouse's family. A great house in a bad neighborhood is still a bad investment. Research shows that higher quality school districts drive demand and push home prices higher. Families with kids will often narrow down their search to 1 or 2 school zones and pay a premium to live there. Conversely, higher crime rates can cause property values to plummet. So you definitely want to do your research on local government websites. And quite frankly, if buyers don't feel safe, they're not going to pay top dollar. Amenities are also included in this group. Proximity to parks, recreation centers, and community facilities makes a neighborhood more desirable and can separate it from nearby neighborhoods. I mean, think about how quickly homes sell in areas with a community pool, walking trails, or a new town center compared to more isolated neighborhoods with no amenities at all. The difference isn't just lifestyle, it's a long-term value. Speaking of long-term value, school district ratings are another key indicator of desirable neighborhoods. This is especially true in Utah, where families tend to have multiple kids and the median age is the youngest in the entire country. So when you're considering a neighborhood, you want to look beyond the house. You want to check school ratings. Even if you don't necessarily have kids or plan on having kids, properties in strong school districts tend to hold their value better over time. Research websites like greatschools.com or niche.com on a particular school or school district to see how it stacks up. You also want to review crime statistics. Nobody wants to live in a high crime area, so use the Salt Lake City public crime map to see which neighborhoods experience the highest rates of crime. It also doesn't hurt to just walk the area. You want to visit at different times of the day and really take note of the following. Do you see families outside? Are parks well maintained? What's the condition of the neighbors' homes? Ask about future development. Are there any new parks, libraries, grocery stores that can boost values? Consider commute times and transportation. Homes near light rail stations or major employment centers tend to appreciate faster. And of course, reach out to me with your specific questions and I'll give you guidance that fits your needs best. It's easier to be tempted by a home that's priced lower, but remember, your home's value will only grow as fast as the neighborhood around it. So buying into a strong community is one of the smartest ways to ensure that your investment appreciates. Number 6 on this list are communities with HOAs, but more specifically, older communities with HOAs. Here's why. Homeowners associations and condominium boards are common in Utah, especially in townhomes and condo developments. HOAs collect monthly fees to maintain common areas, but when those fees and reserve funds aren't enough to cover major repairs, they can create special assessments to cover the cost of maintenance or renovations. A special assessment is essentially a large one-time charge to owners that they have to pay, and sometimes it can be tens of thousands of dollars. This is to fix big ticket items like a new roof or structural repairs, maybe even replacing a plumbing system. So why do these assessments happen? Well, sometimes the HOA monthly fees are just too low, and if the board didn't plan for long-term maintenance, the reserve account runs dry. Oftentimes, you might have unexpected issues arise, like a hidden structural problem that has to be addressed immediately. And even though the building might be older, it's not always the age itself that triggers an assessment. Poorly managed or newer buildings can have these issues too. So beyond assessments, HOAs come up with rules and fees that may affect your enjoyment of the property. Monthly dues can range drastically, sometimes even hundreds of dollars a month. Some HOAs restrict rentals, exterior modifications, or even holiday decorations. So if you're someone who values autonomy, an HOA may feel too restrictive. At the same time, HOAs can keep neighborhoods tidy and maintain amenities that individual owners couldn't necessarily afford to keep up on their own. But at the end of the day, it's a trade-off. So here's how to avoid buying into the wrong HOA community. First, you want to review the HOA's financials. You want to ask for the last 3 years of budgets, reserve funds, and board meeting minutes. Low reserve balances or minimal fee increases are kind of red flags. There's also something called a reserve fund study. This is a report that's required every couple of years that determines any upcoming major repairs and whether the HOA itself is saving enough. So a well-funded reserve should cover roughly 70% or more of anticipated costs. So ask about the history of assessments. If a community has levied multiple special assessments in recent years, that's a sign of chronic underfunding. Assessments are usually divided by unit size or share of ownership. So if you have a larger unit, that means you're going to be paying a larger portion of the bill. Consider the building's age and quality. Older buildings can be well maintained, but if there's been deferred maintenance or poor construction, expect more surprises. You want to talk to residents, right? Ask current owners if they can tell you if the board is proactive, are they transparent, if there's been any tension over finances. And while HOAs can maintain property values by enforcing rules and maintaining amenities, they can also pose a huge financial risk. Buying a home is one of the biggest investments you'll ever make. In Utah's unique market, not all properties are created equal. By avoiding these 6 categories and doing your research, you'll position yourself to build equity and enjoy your home instead of worrying about what's going to go wrong next. If you found this video valuable, please like and share it with somebody you know who's looking to buy in Utah. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more local insights, and feel free to comment with any questions or topics you'd like me to cover below. And as always, if you're ready to make a move or you want a second opinion on a property, reach out. I'd love to help you find a home that's a smart investment and a good fit. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.